So welcome everyone to this morning's 30-minute Tech Tools. I'm going to talk to you about getting started with ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot. So my first question anytime we're looking at tools is, so what's everybody using these days? And I got this top 10 list last week. And it looks like our main contenders are ChatGPT and Google Gemini, also known as Bard. I truly have trouble keeping up with all the name changes. And so I usually refer to it as an OpenAI product, a Google product, an Anthropic product, or whatever. But if we look at some of these AIs that are some of our top choices for work tools, we see the Canva AI suite is number 3, and I'm not surprised by that. But also notice that Grammarly AI comes in at number 9. So all these tools that we're used to seeing, yeah, that's what everybody's using. So knowing that ChatGPT and Google Gemini are in the top 2 spots, it makes sense to look at ChatGPT. With ChatGPT, we do have 3.5, 4 Turbo. All of them are by OpenAI, but also Copilot by Microsoft. And Microsoft is kind of just branding everything they do right now as Copilot. Okay, great, if you say so. But then Gemini by Google's our number 3 spot. And as Shirley had mentioned before we got started, Claude by Anthropic is also becoming a very strong contender with their latest iteration. So with that in mind, what are the differences between each of these systems? We've got ChatGPT 3.5, 4, and then Bing Copilot. The cost of all of these except ChatGPT 4 through its interface is going to be free. If you want GPT-4, it's going to cost you $20 a month. What does that get you? Well, it gets you a set of custom instructions. Those custom instructions are kind of like preloading a prompt that tells the AI who you are and how you want it to respond. And I've found this to be incredibly helpful, and it's really boosted my productivity. So I feel like that $20 a month price tag is really worth it. If you consider the browsing access, ChatGPT 3.5 and 4 technically do not have browsing access. 3.5 will flat tell you, no, I can't get on the internet, and it has a training cutoff of January 2022. GPT-4, there's evidence that it's going out and looking at the internet, and it won't tell you it can't, but it will not return websites if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for website references that are not in a database or not behind a paywall, then Bing or Copilot is the way to go because it will actually pull sources for you. When we're working with these different AIs, the instructions that we give it are going to be called prompts. These prompts have a length limit of either 4,096 tokens for the OpenAI products, where a token, it can be a word, it can be part of a word, or it can be punctuation. So when you work with any of these large language models, the first step they do is to tokenize the words. And so if you're using a word like stationary, that might be a single token. But if you're using a word like preamble, pre might become its own token and amble might become a second token. So it's kind of tough to judge what will become a token or multiple tokens. When you're working with Bing or Copilot, because it's a more conversational interface, they limit your prompt length to 4,000 characters, and you can actually see the character limit decrementing as you type. Now, for the chat length, ChatGPT does not have a strict limit, but in my experience, and it's been documented that the longer you continue a single chat, you're more likely to experience degradation in the responses. So the AI kind of forgets the point of the conversation, and it will sometimes return less high quality results. Bing and Copilot, it was interesting. I was checking all of this information yesterday. And when I first started working with Bing, it gave me 5 prompts per topic, but in the middle of playing around with it, it suddenly jumped to 30 prompts per topic. So I don't know if, I guess that just changed maybe as recently as yesterday. In that previous chart, we saw that a lot of these language models were characterized as GPTs, and it was not mentioning that they could generate images. We find that ChatGPT-4 uses DALL-E, and because it does use DALL-E, we can generate some images, but those are going to be for decorative purposes, and I'll demonstrate that in a bit. Bing or Copilot can generate images as well, and we'll see a side-by-side comparison with those. Now, to me, the best part about using an OpenAI product is that your conversations are saved. So if you have to go back and check something, or if you want to continue a conversation, you can just select the conversation and pick up where you left off. With Bing, oh my gosh, if you get distracted and go do something else for a little while, your conversation is going to disappear and it will change. It will become just a random assortment of websites like you had just been searching. So that to me is frustrating. All right. So if you get on Amazon and you start looking for books to help you get started with working with these AIs, a lot of times you're going to run into these 80 prompts for the classroom, the 10 best prompts for business. And it's like, oh my gosh, there's a 2 dozen, 3 dozen of these books out there right now that are hitting some of the high sales list. I won't say best sellers list, but they give you the impression that you have to really craft these sophisticated prompts to really get good information out of it. And I would argue that we don't really need these spell books to get started. To be sure, some people like Ethan Mollick, he's come up with a prompting framework, as many others have done. And with this prompting framework, you can see that you highlight different pieces to construct this mega prompt that's going to give you some really sophisticated output. And so he talks about you need to set a role and goal, and that's the red text. Dark blue, give it step-by-step instructions. Light blue, include some of the pedagogy that you're trying to accomplish with this prompt. You always want to put some safety rails or constraints on the prompting. And then the tan is personalization. And so don't let this intimidate you, though, because if you start with just a conversational approach to the dialogue, that's all you really need to get started. When you're ready for a deeper dive, though, you can visit Ethan and Lilac Mollick's prompt library at moreusefulthings.com/prompts. And in that, they have prompts for teaching, prompts for students, and other useful prompts. I'm not sure what those other useful prompts are because I haven't taken the time to dig into it, but these two are masters at prompt craft. And they openly share all of their prompts so that you can copy and paste them to your own benefit. So anytime we're working with AI, we have to consider that there's going to be bias and inaccuracies in the algorithms and the data sets. Now, the black text is from the U.S. Department of Education in their Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Teaching and Learning recommendations. The blue is what I have found. So I've found that there are definite inaccuracies that get amplified. And I hope to show this in some of our prompting that we do in the next couple of slides. And there's problems with our data sets. There are also privacy concerns. You do not want to put private information into any of these chats because it then becomes part of the AI's data training set. And there has even been evidence shown that the way that you prompt an AI can give enough information to the AI that it can figure out that you're a 45-year-old female and you live in Melbourne, Australia, as one example that I saw. So keeping those concerns in mind, we really want to evaluate the output of the AI. There was this really fantastic study done by the Harvard and Wharton Schools of Business, and we saw that with this solid blue line, we can picture that as this constantly moving frontier that delineates what the AI can actually do in generating factually accurate output and what it can't do. So outside of that frontier, we see these hallucinations or inaccuracies. And so when OpenAI first released ChatGPT 3.5, we saw tons of hallucinations. I had a student prompt the AI to write a research report on white nose fungus in bats. And the AI wrote a 5-paragraph essay. We asked it to include references, and it made up plausible sounding references, but none of them actually existed. And so if we're choosing tasks for the AI that are absolutely outside of its capabilities, we're going to see these hallucinations and inaccuracies. And a lot of times that will be evident. Where we really run into trouble is when we're falling right on that fine line of what it's capable of doing. And we wind up with this sycophancy situation where the AI is telling us what it thinks we want to hear based on our prompt rather than prioritizing factually accurate output. So this is a prompting framework that I recommend for use with students. And this prompt engineer framework is a great starting point once you want to start building in some of that sophistication. So you prompt the AI by introducing the question. You give it a role or a voice. So for example, you could say, I want you to test out this assignment. Assume that you are a first semester freshman in my General Chemistry 1 class. How would you answer these questions? So you want to be explicit in your instructions and you want to set the parameters of the answer. So that's the prep. So that's getting it started. The most important part is going back and editing the results. We want to evaluate your AI output and we want to look for proper language, facts, and structure. Whenever the output has low perplexity and high burstiness, that's a sign of AI writing. But we also want to keep in mind that there are these biases that are present. And so we want to make sure that this information is accurate and unbiased and is truly the output that we were looking for. And so that's the evaluate, the determine, and the identify. And then we want to transform the content to reflect these adjustments and new findings. All right, so with all that being said, we're going to jump over to these 5 prompts to look at how each of these large language models answers them. So the first one, who won the Nobel Prize for discovering fission of the uranium atom? That's one I test on a regular basis because I'm seeing that the response is improving with time. 2, how can I use AI to grade projects and assignments? 3, create a labeled diagram of an animal cell. And then asking it, given an image, can you label this cell? So 2 slightly different takes on the same topic. And then finally, time permitting, describe how I could take a multiple choice or fill in the blank assessment at the remembering level of Bloom's to make it an AI resilient assessment. All right, so I'm going to, let me stop this just a second. All right, so if at any point you all have questions during this next segment, feel free to just go ahead and drop those into the chat or unmute yourself, and I would be happy to answer those questions. All right. So here we have ChatGPT 3.5. So I just went to chat.openai.com. And I went ahead and preloaded these prompts so we didn't have to watch the thing type them out. And so that first one, who won the Nobel Prize for discovering fission of the uranium atom? This one is important to me because I love the story of the making of the atomic bomb. I really think that's why I became a chemist, because I was so fascinated with that story. And I went and saw Oppenheimer with my son last summer, and I realized that they were still getting the story wrong. They weren't giving proper credit to Lisa Meitner, a Jewish scientist in the 1930s and 1940s. Okay, so she's already got 2 strikes against her because she's working in Berlin as a female Jewish scientist, and she does not get credit for this discovery. And so if you ask 3.5, who won the Nobel Prize for discovering fission of the uranium atom, it says, well, Otto Hahn, a German chemist, was awarded the Nobel Prize. And so that's okay. The updated output is that, however, it's worth noting that many believe Lisa Meitner, an Austrian-Swedish physicist, should have shared the prize with Hahn. So this is an ongoing controversy. And so I've seen that this has improved with time, because previously, when I prompted the AI with this information was not given. If I put this exact same prompt in ChatGPT 4.0, okay, who won the Nobel Prize? It was awarded to Otto Hahn in 1944. It's notable that Lisa Meitner, who also played a crucial role in the understanding alongside Hahn, did not receive, which has been a point of significant historical controversy. So that's also fairly decent. So then if we take this same prompt and we go over to Copilot. So if you go to bing.com search, there are 3 conversational styles you can select with Bing. If you choose creative or precise, that's using ChatGPT 4.0. And if you query Bing about which model it's using, it'll tell you it's proprietary information and it won't share. If you use more balanced, that's using ChatGPT 3.5. So I strongly recommend against that, because you're not using the more powerful AI. So because this is a factual question, I'm going to go with more precise. So who won the Nobel Prize for discovering the fission of the uranium atom? So it's got to think about it. It thinks it's responding. Here it goes. And so you can see that unlike the previous 2 responses, this one is actually going to return to us some websites. So the information it drew upon, there we go. So Wikipedia, ahf.nuclearmuseum.org, another Wikipedia article, sciencehistory.org. Most noticeably, for some reason, this is not drawing from the Manhattan Project website, which I think is a mistake, but it's documenting its sources. And if you click on these dotted lines, you can actually go straight to the articles. And so that is super helpful. And you can see I clicked off of it, and guess what? I lost my conversation. So again, another frustration with using Bing. All right, so that second prompt. All right, how can I use AI to grade projects and assignments? And 3.5 says you can select an AI-powered grading tool, you can train the AI model, you can define grading criteria, test the AI grading, provide feedback, monitor and refine, maintain transparency. Okay, pretty generic, but I guess that might be enough to get you started. But if we switch over to 4.0, all right, this gives me an answer that actually gives me some actionable steps. And so it tells me to choose the right tools. So select AI grading tools that integrate with your existing learning management system like Canvas, Blackboard, or Moodle. Tools like Gradescope or Turnitin's Gradescope AI are popular for automating grading, especially for STEM assignments. Now, why would it mention STEM assignments? Well, because I have that paid subscription with ChatGPT 4, I can come down here and I can actually customize ChatGPT. And so you can give it these custom instructions. What would you like ChatGPT to know about you to provide better responses? I tell it who I am, my background, what do I do in my day job, what do I hope to accomplish, where do I live, what, just stuff like that. And then how would you like ChatGPT to respond? I like a conversational tone that delivers clear, actionable steps without extra words. I told it to be blunt because I'm a scientist. That's how I do this. And so these custom instructions will show up in some of the responses, such as referencing these STEM assignments. So set clear rubrics, train the AI, pilot test, feedback integration, continual updates, combine AI and human effort, and then orient your students to how AI grading works. And so to me, that is a much, much more high quality response. If I take this same prompt and I come over to Copilot, I'm going to ask it to be creative this time. And you can see I've just used 51 characters out of my 4,000 permitted. And so while that's generating a response, okay, and you can actually give it the same prompt and you can change the topic. And you could try doing it in precise and you'll get a different response. You could try doing it in creative and you'll get a different response. And so we will see that this is different than I got yesterday. All right, so Jeff asked, so the Bing results for creative or precise will provide the same or very similar responses as ChatGPT 4.0. Yes. And yes, this is a way to get 4.0 for free with the addition of references. That's exactly correct, Jeff. All right, and so, and I would say that also, even though I have the 4.0 paid accounts, I still come over and cross-reference it with the Bing 4.0 just because you get different responses. So you can see here, this is the 4.0 paid subscription, but then I come over here and it gives me a list of great AI grading tools explicitly. And so it says, check out GradeScope, CourseBox, Vexus. I've never heard of Vexus, but I'm curious now. Automated essay grading tools. And then it kind of gets off topic. Let's revolutionize exam evaluation. Okay, but here are my references. And so if I wanted to, I could actually export this so I could download it. And notice this is my first of 30 responses. And so if I wanted to, I could use some of these canned responses to continue the dialogue, or I could do something like, tell me more about Vexus. And so you could dig deeper into this. And so you're limited to just 30 responses, but that's more than enough to really find out or dig deeply into the topic you're curious about. And so we see that we could just continue this conversation until we really get the well to run dry on our questions. All right, so if we look at the animal cell, this is the one I was really curious about because I'm always looking to see, has this evolved enough that it's going to be useful in every way an instructor could need? And so, excuse me, I asked GPT-4 because if you go up to your models here, notice 3.5 is great for everyday tasks, but 4 has DALL-E browsing and analysis, but there's usage limits. The usage limits vary depending on how much traffic there is on the AI. So if it's a high traffic time, like if it's the beginning of the semester when everybody's hitting it, trying to update their materials for the semester, there's going to be some limit usages in the number of prompts you can send per hour. But this DALL-E feature is fantastic. And so I asked it to create a labeled diagram of an animal cell. So I was looking for a picture, and instead it gave me a description. And I said, okay, that's a great description. But at the end, it said, would you like me to create this diagram for you? Yeah, that's the first thing I asked for. But then notice that here's the labeled diagram of an animal cell showing all the major components. Okay, that's a crazy animal cell. And if you actually zoom in on it, cell what? That looks like Cyrillic, Russian. And so this is not factually accurate. So I just strayed across the abilities of this AI. It can do decorative images, but it can't do scientifically accurate images. And so I really wanted to push this some more. And so I said, okay, what if I give you this cell? Oh, and I should mention too that the results are the same for Bing. It gives you a cell that looks like it's full of Russian characters. And so for 3.5, I say, can you label this cell? and I send it to this website. And it says, oh, I can't access specific web pages. Well, can I upload the image? Well, no, I can't view or analyze images directly. So that's a limitation of 3.5. If I go to ChatGPT 4.0, I say, can you label this cell? And I actually, if you see this little paper clip here, it allows you to either put in this case, I went to the web page and I added that web page. And so it inserted that website with the animal cell. And you can see this is much simpler than what it generated for us. And it gives a really great description, but it can't generate a cell. And so I have this app on my phone as well. And so I took a picture of my computer screen and I said, can you label this for me? And, ChatGPT can analyze photos and give you directions based on that. And so it correctly identified that I've got a 3D model of a typical animal cell, and it described all of them, but it can't go in and actually label the cell. So that was another limitation. All right, so for the last prompt, and if I tried that with Copilot, let's see. So if I go to Copilot, and where are all my files? There we go. So I load this web page and say, oh, it's not supported yet. Okay, I guess I was adding that differently. So I was adding the PNG file. So there's my screenshot. Can you label this? And so notice it says privacy blur hides faces from Copilot. So it's trying to respect privacy. So while that's working, are there other questions I can answer for you?
Lisa, have you played much with Gemini?
I have not.
Okay.
Have you?
I've played with it a little since it's changed from Bard to Gemini. And it's a hit or miss thing too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm usually bouncing between paid 4.0 and Bing 4.0 just to see what kind of results I get. And that's usually sufficient for what I need. All right, so this is going to take a hot minute. So our last prompt, just taking a quick look at this, because this is like the question of the day right now. Describe how I could take a multiple choice or fill in the blank assessment at the remembering level of Bloom's to make it an AI resilient assessment. So we can either have AI embracing assessments where we work AI into the assessment, or we can continue to try and build assessments that just keep AI out of it. Can we get students to complete this assignment without AI helping them? And so 3.5 gave some pretty generic, this is how you would do it. 4.0, I loved the response by 4.0 because it suggested embedding contextual applications. And so this is when, again, back to those custom instructions, it goes right to, hey, instead of asking straightforward questions like, what is the chemical symbol for gold? You could frame it as, and so it's pulling on that custom instruction that I'm a chemist. Let's see, when you finish, can you share the screen with the author and book to ask prompts? Yes, actually, let me go ahead and just share that right now, because I meant to share all kinds of goodness with you guys. And so there we go. Too many things shared out. So there is a prompt craft poster. So that's the prompt edit. And then I wanted to share. And then these are my slides. And so I will also send those out via email. All right. And then did we have any other questions? We're at time. All right. If you guys have questions in the future, please just let me know. I love talking about this and figuring ways to work the AI into our curriculum, either to be AI resilient or AI embracing, because I respect what you guys do and how you want to do it. And we just got to figure out how to work with this new technology. All right. Thank you all so much. And I will see you all again soon. Thank you.